All right, so emotional regulation. What the hell is it? Okay, before we start talking about it, we probably should define what it is. Emotional regulation is a skill set that men can and I believe should adhere to, which allows them to look much more objectively at the situation they're in and to not allow their first primal or deepest emotions to control how they react. You can still feel them. That's totally normal. That's natural. That would be a problem probably if you didn't feel certain emotions during certain circumstances. But then the emotional regulation part is not necessarily suppressing, but it is just taking a step back for 1 second and saying, is this the correct emotion I'm supposed to have at this time, or am I overreacting in a big way? Now, growing up, I can think of a multitude of times that I would react, whether it was out of anger or jealousy or hurt. I would just overreact in such a big way. And looking back at those situations, 99% of the time, it did not call for the way that I reacted to it, and I made it a much bigger deal than it ever needed to be. And as I've grown older, I'm still rather young. I'm 23, but as I've grown older, I've tried to become better and better at taking a deep breath and a step back and saying, is this the right way for me to react right now? And it also helps you not assume the worst of people. It's very easy to do. It's actually one of the best pieces of marriage advice that I've been given was to never assume someone's motives. So I think that applies to your friendships with your guy buddies, just family in general, and most people in the world. Some people are dicks. Some people are just straight up jackasses. They're out there. And I'm not trying to discount the fact that they're not. That they exist, unfortunately. But a lot of times people do things around you that you could easily take offense to, and that could easily cause your strongest emotions to, burst out of you. But that's not normally, first off, what the person meant, and second off, how you should react. A lot of times people say things, and it makes, the firecracker in you just pop off, and you're just ready for a fight, And in reality, what that person was saying was not at all aimed at you. It wasn't meant to hurt you. And you were the one who overreacted. And I don't mean you as in you, but I mean you as in all of us men, specifically me, because I have done that from time to time. And so it's a very valuable skill to have. And it really it's the skill of calming down for a second. And whether you're feeling jealous or you're feeling angry or your appetites are going crazy at that moment, it allows you to just, and once again, it takes repetition, but it allows you to step back for a second and say, am I about to react in the best way I could? And does this situation warrant the way that I initially want to react? And I think it's probably a little bit maybe harder in your teenage years when you've got all the crazy hormones running through you. And guys, I still have crazy hormones running through me. Don't get me wrong. But I think I've gotten much more level-headed in a lot of those situations where previously I would have just exploded and gotten very angry or loud or just felt very hurt or emotionally acted out in a way that I would look back on and be like, God damn, I went way over the top there. So I've been working on that, and I think I've gotten better at it, but it's made me think about it, that it is very important for men to master. And I wrote down a couple of reasons why I think this is the case. And I will go in depth in here in a second. But so let's start. Let's start with a couple reasons why you should want to master this skill of emotional regulation. Once again, it's not emotional deletion. It's not like completely cutting out the emotions. I just think that there is a skill that can be fostered in a man's life, which allows you to control your emotions for the best outcome possible. So, one of the first things that comes to mind when it comes to emotional regulation and why you should try and, put it into your life and put it into action is because it helps you enhance your relationships with others. Now, that's everybody, your family, your friends, your spouse, like whoever that is, this ability to not lash out and react in the worst way possible when something might be said around you that would be hurtful or something done around you that might be construed as malicious towards you. And so, I think that that's a great reason to just think about, oh, maybe I should try and put this into my life, because it does help your relationships in so many ways. Uh, and I've talked about before that I'm happy man tries to attain a rich social life with both his family and his friends and his broader community. He tries to have a very just healthy social life because that contributes to him becoming a better person down the road. So it will help enhance your relationships. I got a kind of funny story about this. So in college, I believe it was midterms or finals. It was a very tough time. Everybody was feeling a little ragged, a little worn down because they'd been studying like really, really late into the night. And a couple guys, myself included, were hanging out in the common area of the dorm. Okay, so that's like this like the area where basically all the doors open up to. It's this big rectangle where there's like two couches and people would sit and just talk and stuff. And two of my buddies were walking past each other, and one of them accidentally bumped the other's shoulder. And the one whose shoulder got bumped was like, "Dude, what the hell?" And he's like, it went from 0 to 60 like that, okay? And everybody was stressed out. It was like like I said, it was either midterms or finals. So a lot of studying, a lot of hard work, and everyone's fuse was just a little bit shorter. And my buddy was like, "Dude, what the hell are you doing? Why would you hit me like that?" Like, and he freaked out. And my other buddy, who is also kind of a naturally aggressive dude, great dude, but kind of, there's got that natural aggression to him, and just I don't even want to say aggression. That sounds wrong, but like very much like tribal, a little tribal. So he gets up in arms like really fast, and I'm sitting there on the couch, kind of just cracking up, right? Because I'm laughing because I'm watching this whole thing unfold, and it was just a minor infraction upon I guess both of them are great friends of mine, but it was a weird little moment where they went from 0 to 60 like that, and then they both like took a step back and they talked about it for just a split second, and they both figured out that there was no harm meant by it, and they kind of laughed it off. And I think it was a really great bonding moment because it was a moment where both of them kind of brought in that idea of like emotional regulation. They took a step back. They're like, okay, things just went from 0 to 60 like that. Maybe one person was looking for a fight and the other one was having a really bad day. I don't know exactly, but it's an hilarious story. We tell it to this day, but it just it escalated so quickly. And if that emotional regulation hadn't been there, it just would have been a full-out brawl, okay? Like, they would have been on the ground beating the shit out of each other. And don't get me wrong, that would have been kind of fun to watch, but it also was really cool to see their emotional regulation kind of kick in, and both of them come to a realization that, oh my gosh, there was no harm meant. We're cool. We can just sit back down. No, no hard feelings. And it was just a great moment where it's like, okay, yeah, it can really help your relationships. Now, that's a very extreme situation with your relationship, but, there are times with anybody that you love that things are going to be said that will probably hurt your feelings. And a lot of times the other person didn't mean to, but they do. It still hurts your feelings. And, that's something you should address, but also it's not necessarily a time where you should assume the worst of the other person and say, I think they're trying to really hurt me here. No, I think the manly thing to do is to say, okay, I'm going to try and assume the best until I'm really proven that you mean the worst. And in so doing, I'm going to try and keep myself in check, and I will maybe probe a little more farther with a question or two. And before I get to the point where I'm actually boiling because you are trying to be incendiary and hurt my feelings to the umpteenth degree. So, anyways, that's one reason. It enhances your relationships. So that's just one very clear-cut reason that you should try and implement emotional regulation into your life as a man. Secondly, let's talk about professional success. I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life where I have worked with managers or coworkers who have a piss-poor attitude and who get just crazy emotional super fast, and it makes for an incredibly stressful, dare I say, toxic work environment. It's the worst. I mean, anybody who is listening to this right now who could probably think of one person that they have worked with in their life who just keeps you on edge, And it's not because you feel like they're dominating you. It's just like you feel like any word you say could just trigger them off. and they could just explode. And it's like, calm down. You know, you don't need to cause that much stress in everybody else's life. You can calm down a bit. And so when you think about those people, you know, and you think about how um, annoying they are to be around, and you think about, okay, they should never be in a leadership position because they can't get their shit together, because the tiniest thing that happens outside the job description is the end of the world. They're not fun to work with. They're terrible to work with. Now, conversely, if you have someone who can actually have stuff happen that is not, you know, fun, and it's not within the job description, but it happens and you have to deal with it, when there's someone that you're working around that can just keep their head cool, you know, a level head in really trying situations, then damn, that's a really good person to work around. That's someone that, as a boss, you know, you would want to elevate, and you'd want to say, hey, you show a lot of promise, especially with how you interact with other people, because you can keep a level head, even when you may have all these emotions boiling up. You can say no to them for a second and say, okay, how should I properly react here? And I think that's what a good leader does, and thus a good man. So if you're looking at it from just a tangible reason for why you should try and implement this emotional regulation into your life, your professional success is really up there, because there's a lot of hard skills when it comes to what you do with your job. But there's also soft skills. Soft skills are dealing with people and your communication and how you present yourself to others. And those things do matter, and they do matter for your professional success down the road. If you're a jackass all the time and you're an employee and not the boss, first off, if you're the boss, your business will fail if you're a jackass, for the most part. And then second off, you know, if you're an employee, you're never going to get elevated. Your boss is going to look at you and say, okay, you just caused problems in the workplace. Why would I try and put you into any kind of leadership position or, you know, have you rise above the rank you currently are in? So master emotional intelligence so you can get your raise, so you can actually progress farther in the workplace and faster than other people. Because it's a hard skill to have. I mean, and it takes work and it takes practice, but it is worth it. Another thing I want to talk about, and this is a weird one, but health benefits. It's crazy, but stress is not good for the overall health of your bodily system. It's not. It's not. Now, it's not to say that difficulty isn't. You know, like working out is literally ripping muscle fibers so they can grow back stronger. You know, I like the idea of cold showers. It builds resilience. I like that. There's a lot of things that are uncomfortable that I'm not saying that those stresses, those natural stresses, aren't good for you. They can be. They can make you stronger. But this resounding idea that everyone around you is out to get you, and that at any moment you can't trust yourself to not explode in a fit of anger, a fit of rage, or just say something incredibly mean to someone when they didn't mean to say anything mean about you, right? When you're living with that weight on your shoulders, that's a constant stress on you. It's a constant stress on you. And it's a constant stress to those around you. Like back to that work idea. Like people don't want to be around you if you're that kind of person. So if you can just master, and like I said, it takes time, but if you could master this idea of emotional regulation, well, you're actually going to have like a healthier life. You're not going to have those bags in your eyes. You're going to sleep better. You're going to be at peace. And peace, in my opinion, is priceless. And then lastly, one thing that I think is very beneficial to men is being able to make decisions. And if you're going to master emotional regulation, well, damn it. I mean, your decision-making process will be enhanced. It will. Because what mastering your emotions does, and being able to regulate them, what that does is it allows you to stop looking inwards and feeling all this turmoil and actually look outwards for a second and say, okay, what are the actual factors happening right now? How do I address this? What is the proper way to address this? And this ties into courage. It ties a little bit into temperance, the virtues that I've talked about before. But yes, this idea you need to, like when it comes to courage, you are basically stomping on fear for a second so you can actually look your enemy in the eye and say, okay, how do I best take you out? How do I best handle this situation? Temperance, when you're trying to suppress your appetites a little bit, when they're getting a little out of hand, you're like, I shouldn't eat the whole cake, there's this idea of self-control. And the same thing is true for your emotions, all your emotions. Being able to, express them when you need to. Like there are times when you have a heartfelt conversation with someone and it brings tears to your eyes, and that's not wrong. That's a healthy emotion to have, And there's a time when someone is trying to beat the shit out of you, and you need to kind of get that anger and that fire in your eye and say, no, like, let's go. It's time. Like, that is also valuable. But that's not valuable in every situation. And it's actually valuable in very few. Like, you need to have it in your back pocket, but you don't want to react that way every time you have a conversation that's a little uncomfortable, where someone says something that's like a little out of your wheelhouse, and you're like, I really wish you wouldn't have said that. This happens with politics all the time. People do not keep level heads. Someone says one thing about a policy or an idea that the other person just hates, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm going for your neck. This is terrible. And it's so childish. It's like, get a grip of yourself. Get a grip on yourself, okay? Like, you can get heated, you can get emotional about things. That's fine, but it doesn't need to happen every single time. And it has its place, and most of the time, that place is not in the conversation you are currently in. So, anyways, it does contribute to enhanced decision making, and therefore, it is worth trying to master. So then we'll get to the last part. How does one master this? How does one actually incorporate this into your life as a man? I have said it, I think, 30 times already, but practice. Practice. I have still got a long way to go in this department. I'm still trying to grow in this skill, but it has become better over time because I've had many more instances where I can actually enact it. I can say, okay, Reuben, take a step back. You want to explode right now. You want to get really angry. You want to say something really hurtful to someone. Don't do it. Don't do it. Get a hold of yourself, and then make your decision after that. Give yourself a couple seconds before you react. And so that is really the key. It's just every time you come into a situation where that is going to happen, where you do feel these emotions well up within you, think about them for a second. Don't just let them express themselves instantly to the world around you. Take a second to be a little introspective and think, okay, is this the correct way for me as a man to react right now in this situation? So, anyways, that is all the emotional regulation stuff I wanted to talk to you guys about, but I thought it was super interesting, and it is a skill that I believe that every man should incorporate into his life if he wants to reach that next level of happiness and proficiency, and actually in so many areas of his life, whether it's his relationships or his job, or just making good decisions on the fly, So, anyways, that's all I have to say. Let's move on to the second part of the podcast, and I hope you enjoyed.